Nico Harrison. Damn. All the homies. Nico Harrison in his exit interview said, I did know Luka was important to the fan base. I didn't know quite to this level. Whoa. Do you believe him?
I absolutely believe him because I think in his role, in his mind, you gotta understand, Nico came from Nike. He hasn't worked in the NBA for a million years. So in his mind, and see, this is where people can get misconstrued with the NBA. People think everyone wants to win a championship. Not true. And when I say everyone, I mean every team, even every player, every coach. That's not true. But so you kind of get these misconceptions of the NBA of like the most important thing at all times is just to win a championship. And I can imagine that that's what Nico's thinking. So, which is why he keep talking and he keeps saying stuff, because in his mind, it's like, yeah, but no, this is what I think is best for a championship. And if he could simply just say that and be done with it, I think he would. But that's not the day and age we live in. You have to have an explanation for everything. And so what he's struggling with is he made a move that he thinks is best for them to win a championship.
Right.
That don't really matter to everybody else. And I think that's the lesson that he's learning, is that
it was an unpopular decision.
Exactly. Your unpopular decision is what you're going to be remembered by, because the most important thing in people's mind isn't to win a championship. People are fans of who they're fans of. Like,
right.
One of the biggest reasons the NBA is so huge is because people know the players and they're fans of these players. I think that's where, Nico's struggling a bit. I think my advice would be like, about 4 weeks ago, he should have made that his last time talking about Luka, and everything else from that point on should just be Luka Doncic. What he did for this franchise was great, but we have players here that we need to focus on, and it's disrespectful to them to not focus on them. And that should have just been his answer 4 weeks ago and shut everybody up. But he kind of, I love Nico, but he's kind of kept saying things, and it's just keeping the story running. And you got to let the story die. And it's just like, there's no right. Like, you can't write it there's nothing he's going to say that's going to right the ship. So you just got to like silence it and move on. And I think, maybe in his mind, it's like, all right, we get to the end of the year, move on. But people are going to always ask about Luka, and you have to have an answer that's like, that's it, I'm done with it, and move on, because the story just keep running. It won't die.
You got to be tapped in. All sensors. When you're running an operational organization, you got to be tapped in. Unpopular decision, but it was his decision as the general manager to look at the future of the Dallas Mavericks and say, if I have to exchange one piece for the next, what am I getting in return that can get me over the hump? What am I giving away that I'm going to miss? And so his decision was they would be the biggest team in the NBA. They had the three-point shooting, and defense is ultimately what lost them the championship. It wasn't offense. But to your point, you gotta move on. You traded him. That's what you're going to be known for. And so hopefully Dallas and the team that you're building up has that playoff and that championship pedigree. Or like a reporter asked him why he shouldn't be fired.
That's crazy to ask somebody. You should ask the reporter, why do you have a job?
Why shouldn't you be fired?
Why, you don't ask somebody that.
I would have pulled up one of
But you know what that is to me, though? Those reporters that I don't like, that's the definition of kicking somebody while they down. And like why shouldn't you be fired? Like, what do you mean why shouldn't I be fired? Like, what have you done more than I've done that you shouldn't be fired?
Right.
That's whack. Stop it.
That was super whack.
That's clownish.
Let Nico live in his peace, man. Let him live in his decision. Nico, empower yourself. Move on. Make the right decisions for the Mavs. And you got a good they got a hell of a team and a hell of a foundation. When Kyrie get back and they get 100% healthy, they're going to be a force to reckon with. And people are talking shit now, but they could be the Houston back in the 2 seed, back in the 3 seed next year.
Absolutely.